the confusion of the publishing world to make it easy for you.
Call or scan for your free.
Cuba could be the next communist dictatorship to topple over without the United States really even firing a single shot. The brilliance behind the Trump administration's plan, but also just how it's playing out in regards to America's very close geographical neighbor. Facebook, interestingly, has patented, or I should say Meta has patented something that is potentially deeply concerning and a very interesting philosophical question posed. And according to a new book, Shakespeare was a black Jewish woman. I kid you not, that is an argument that a real book that is published by a real author is making. All that and more coming up on this episode of the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. My name is Jobob. Show starts right now. Stick around for getting to the point for that last little tease. It's an actual thing. Spoiler alert, fact check, no, not true, but that somebody is saying that, and it seemed too hilarious to not include. What were we even talking about? Cuba looks like it could be toppled in the coming days, and by the time you're seeing this, maybe it already has toppled. Maybe it already has fallen. Protests in the streets we've talked about on the show earlier this week, but I don't know. We'll see what happens there. The brilliance, though, behind the Trump administration and what they've done to possibly even facilitate a regime change in Cuba without firing a single bullet. TBT@TPUSA.com is the email address if you'd like to send along your thoughts, comments, concerns, even criticisms. And if those comments, wherever it is that you happen to be watching this on social media, or emails are disgusting, vile, and bigoted, downright nasty emails, there is a chance that we'll read it on the show. TPT@TPUSA.com. Especially would love to hear your thoughts about what's going on in Cuba, whether or not the Trump administration should take a different approach, whether or not you think that this is a fantastic approach. I happen to think so, and I'll explain coming up next. But TPT@TPUSA.com is that email one more time. I love hearing from each and every one of you who send in emails. We do read the majority of them. So by the way, even if we don't have them on the show in the later part of the show, later segments of the show, we do read pretty much everything that comes through. TPT@TPUSA.com. I want to start the day with what's going on in Cuba. Obviously, there's a tension all over the world, specifically in Iran, before that in Venezuela. But how have the Trump administration's tactics affected Cuba? I want to first set this up by a hilarious clip that Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, gave in a Senate hearing in which he was asked about regime change in Cuba and how that plays into what the administration has done and how that actually might facilitate said regime change without actually ever having to do really all that much regarding, military tactics. Here's cut 6, Secretary Rubio saying what he would like.
Will you make a public commitment today to rule out U.S. regime change in Cuba?
Regime change?
Yes.
Oh, no, I think we would love to see the regime there change. We would like to. That doesn't mean that we're going to make it change, but we would love to see it change. There's no doubt about the fact that it would be of great benefit to the United States if Cuba was no longer governed by an autocratic regime.
Now, obviously, Secretary Rubio's family having escaped from Cuba, he has a deeply rooted interest in this, but obviously the question is posed, well, do we want military involvement in Cuba? Well, to quell some of those fears, we may not have to. The Trump administration, interestingly enough, by way of Venezuela and threats on tariffs, have made some pretty significant inroads to toppling, effectively, the Cuban Communist government without actually having to insert any sort of military intervention. The Trump administration has pursued more targeted economic pressure campaigns against Cuba, which has resulted in a country that looks ripe for revolution. On January 3rd, the United States forces detained Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro after he said, "Come and get me." And Trump said, "Okay." And so they did. Which, side tangent, that still amazes me. Like, hey, we just stole your leader, and there wasn't really no casualties. Yes, there was lots of bravery on display, lots of military tactical brilliance on behalf of the United States military joint effort. But also still, we just got your guy. So very funny. Anyways, so January 3rd, that happens. The United States captures the dictator of Venezuela and then effectively took control of all of Venezuela's oil exports. Now, what we haven't really discussed and haven't talked about as a country is what that did to Cuba. Venezuelan exports were going all over the place. They were going to China. They were going to other countries around South America. But specifically, that cut off Cuba's about 35,000 barrels per day, which is about half of the overall oil supply in Cuba. And that happened overnight, just gone. So obviously, they're going to be hurting for resources and supplies, oil in this circumstance, but also many other supplies that they probably depended on the Venezuelans for. All of those are gone overnight. On January 29th, President Trump signed an executive order which warned sweeping tariffs on any other country that would ship oil or other goods to Cuba. Now, obviously, there's been some debate with the Supreme Court's ruling on what he has power-wise to issue those tariffs, or at least issue the threats of those tariffs. The Supreme Court said, no, you can't in this capacity. President Trump says, well, I'm going to do it in this capacity. So all that being said, at the end of January, he says, hey, it's actually going pretty well, intentional or not. We've basically cut off half of Cuba's oil supply, half of their energy, basically. And well, maybe you shouldn't participate in giving them energy, all of the other countries that may be inclined to do so. So President Trump signs an executive order, says, hey, if you help Cuba out, we are going to institute tariffs on you. And the biggest supplier of Cuban oil outside of Venezuela, Mexico, complied in 48 hours. Here is a cut of Claudia Sheinbaum, who is the president of Mexico, saying how bad it is that this is being done to Cuba, and also they're going to participate because they don't want to mess with the United States of America. This is obviously in Spanish, so I will do my best to read the subtitles to you, but here's her admitting, yeah, we are complying with the United States of America. Watch this. Right now, the United States published a decree saying that they would impose tariffs on any country that sends oil to Cuba. We are taking all diplomatic actions to prevent tariffs on Mexico for sending oil to Cuba, which means they're complying. She also then goes and say, also making international calls to the United States that these sanctions are very unjust for the Cuban people, because she has to say that. Oh no, it's so bad, but also not bad enough for us to not participate in, because holy cow, you don't want to be on the United States bad side, which is a good thing, kind of an intangible thing in and of itself. You want countries to go, hey, we disagree, but also we recognize that we're much smaller and less powerful than you, and therefore we don't want to upset you. That's a good stance for countries to have towards the United States of America. And I guarantee you, they did not have in the prior administration or the administration before the first Trump administration. So anyways, with effectively no oil deliveries in January, Cuba now faced a 2,000 megawatt power gap by present day, by March. About 64% of the country has been experiencing blackouts, some of which that have lasted 20 hours a day, which, if you're not familiar with the geography of Cuba, that means you don't have air conditioning, which is bad, especially, if somebody like me who's very, very used to air conditioning. Now, to combat that, the other good news is, I guess, well, because Cuba is in a lot of ways a communist hellhole, a lot of them didn't have air conditioning to begin with, so not necessarily a huge problem. Now, the fallout outside of like power outages in residential areas has spread very, very quickly, including jet fuel shortages at 9 of the big Cuban airports, hospitals, retirement facilities, a bunch of different commercial facilities are now relying on backup generators. The trash is piling up because the collection trucks don't have gas. Bottom line, this is a bad thing for the Cuban regime. Now, we'll get to some of the private enterprise, but more broadly, this has led to a bunch of protesting in the streets. I want to play you just a quick clip of just one instance of this. This is cut 8, but basically underlying the fact that the Cubans are taking to the streets like the Iranians were just a couple months ago, saying, hey, this might be our time. Watch this, cut 8. I think you get the picture. That's basically a bunch of Cubans lighting fires, possibly even smoking cigars at this protest. I'm not sure. I can't confirm that, but if I were there, I would be doing that. But Cubans basically are taking to the streets now, protesting, hey, this is a problem. Somebody needs to fix it. Reminds you, just a reminder, the United States has had zero military action whatsoever here up to this point. Now, what's also interesting is the timing of this all coincides with documented adversaries to the United States. In this case, well, I guess in this particular case, but the next one is a different one too. The Chinese have had intelligence in Cuba, and there have been confirmed reports about 20 different U.S. military installations from 20 different U.S. military installations that have suggested that China playing a part in Cuba is also being massively affected by not only the power outages, but the overall cornering off of Cuba from the rest of the world. There was one site, a military installation in Cuba from the United States, that intercepted communications coming to Cuba from 8,000 nautical miles away, which I think they pinpointed that somewhere around Taiwan. So bottom line here is the Chinese are even being affected by this blockade of Cuba, which has been done through economic sanctions effectively. On top of that, Russia has embedded intelligence personnel in Cuban facilities and Cuban civilian projects, and they too are also experiencing some pretty difficult scenarios in trying to do their job. The Russians, in response to all of this, have pledged humanitarian oil shipments. Now, they call it humanitarian because, I don't know, they understand American language and know that the libs are going to be very upset about this. You're blocking humanitarian oil? But basically, the bottom line is this. The United States has effectively, through sanctions, blocked off a ton of what's going on in Cuba, the regime holding power and just, well, people having power to begin with. And that is not only affecting the protests or the people that would protest to topple the regime in Cuba, but it's also affecting several of our other adversaries, being Russia and China. All of this is probably a good thing. Now, where this could get really interesting is if Russia does decide to send oil tankers, because, well, there are really only two options there. The United States lets the oil tankers go through, or they blockade them and stop them, i.e., Cuban Missile Crisis 2.0. Now, I don't think we're dealing with nukes here necessarily, but a blockade from the United States would then inherently be military reaction in some way, shape, or form by the United States of America. Now, the U.S. Has physically enforced restrictions in oil tanker vessels regarding Venezuela, obviously those tankers that were seized by the United States, and Russia didn't really do anything. So there is hopefully that, but the bottom line is this takes nuance, and because it takes nuance, the Trump administration and the federal government treasury has now issued new guidance permitting American companies to resell Venezuelan oil exclusively to Cuba's private businesses, based in the U.S. dollar and regulated by U.S. banks. The Cuban government, however, and the military receive absolutely nothing. Now, again, is that very complicated and complex? Yes. Is it difficult to make sure that those private companies that are able to receive oil don't sell it to the government or to the military? Yes. But overall, they are effectively cutting off the regime's energy supply. They are disrupting, by they I mean we are disrupting foreign intelligence operations, and we are creating a pathway for the U.S. to give the private commercial sector companies in Cuba energy while also continuing to apply economic leverage to weaken the current government while opening controlled opportunities for private enterprise without firing a single shot. Now, is all what we just said very kind of convoluted and complex? Yes, because the situation is very convoluted and complex. But the New York Times, who, mind you, is not a conservative outlet, like they don't have some conservative takes there at the New York Times. Their opinion writers in the conservative side are David French, who I'm not entirely sure how he calls himself a conservative, but that aside from the point, the New York Times called what the Trump administration is doing, which nobody is really talking about, maybe they will in the next coming days, the first truly effective U.S. blockade of Cuba since the 1962 missile crisis. And it's been entirely accomplished through sanctions and economic pressure rather than military action. Look, these are complicated. They're complex. Nobody denies any of that. But also, too, if you're thinking about it rationally and pragmatically, somebody has to be the world police. I realize there's a bunch of isolationists who I tend to be in a lot of cases who don't like the idea of the United States being the world police, but somebody has to. In order to facilitate global trade, the sea passages need to be free and clear. The countries that are going to engage in open markets need to be able to do so. And in all, it's either us or China who are going to police those. And who's going to do it most effectively and most fair for everybody around the world? It's going to be us, and that also benefits the United States of America, which by default would be America first. Now, I get that. It's all complex and all, I don't know, semi-difficult to wrap your head around. But the bottom line, the main point that I think I'm trying to make here is, you know, maybe some people may think Trump is acting too much. Maybe they think he's doing too much. And that's a fair criticism, but at the same time, let's all remember that anything that is over the bounds of what the president generally would do regarding sanctions, regarding military action, all of that is really only to compensate for everything that went wrong during the Obama years or years prior to that. The United States is showing its iron fist to the rest of the world by way of military intervention in Iran, military intervention or kidnapping the leader of Venezuela, or in this case, economic sanctions in Cuba, who is a regime that we would like to see toppled over. But again, like Secretary Rubio says, maybe not necessarily with military action. All of those things are possible and to an extent even necessary because of how weak the United States has been in the past several decades. The only reason that any of this needs to happen, to the extent that it does need to happen, and I'm open and willing to accept opinions, tpt@tpusa.com, is because of how weak the United States has been in years prior. I, for one, happen to think that President Trump taking back the gusto of American might and military power is a good thing. Not only for the world, but also for us here at home. TPT@tpusa.com if you have any thoughts, comments, concerns on that. I recognize it's very complex. I even lost myself in a little bit kind of explaining all that. Bottom line here is that we are implementing successful blockades on Cuba, and that is a good thing for both us and the Cubans. But any of your thoughts are welcome. TPT@tpusa.com. Got a lot to get to, including some pretty, I don't know what to call it, pretty scary headlines. I don't know if they're necessarily scary. They're concerning philosophical questions coming up here and getting to the point. Also, the ridiculous headline that I teased earlier about Shakespeare being a black Jewish woman. All that and more coming up after the break. Don't go away.
Take it outside and tackle.
Don't kibble your dog.
Oh, hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
But what's wrong with this? It's premium stuff.
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means it's ultra-processed at extremely high temperatures that destroy the nutrients in the food. But at Dr. Marty, we gently freeze-dried premium meats, fruit, and vegetables, locking in their nutrients.
Never kibbled.
You got it, kid, and they're gonna love it.
How many times have you tried to clean a stubborn mess but end up with no success? What you need is the all-new waterproof Ruby Horsepower, the new cordless and rechargeable power scrubber that cleans faster and easier, guaranteed. Watch, baked on oven grease is no match. It easily blasts away dirt and grime in no time. The power comes from our rotating brushes spinning at 350 RPM. The incredible torque fights calcium, soap, mildew, mold, and more. Forget harsh chemicals. With just plain water, Horsepower can clean bathroom tiles and tubs back to their original shine and luster. It's a game changer in the kitchen where it busts through caked-on crud. Take it outside and tackle tough tasks with ease. How strong is Horsepower? We took this distressed 100-year-old antique and restored it to like new with Horsepower. Amazing! Get your Ruby Horsepower scrubber today with bonus scouring sponge for just $39.99. Save on buying batteries. It's powered with the latest rechargeable technology. But wait, you'll also get this stainless steel brush to make range hoods and gas stoves look brand new again. Yours free. And we're not done. You'll get this Smart Flex cone brush that fits perfectly into corners, tiny crevices on toilets and tiles, or hard to reach shower door rails. Yours free. And to top it off, we'll include this microfiber cloth to clean delicate surfaces and polish cars sparkling clean. It's also free. Great news. Horsepower is now in stock and ready to ship, but due to high demand, there is a strict limit of 2 per order. Order now.
Call 1-800-953-8622. That's 1-800-953-8622 or visit horsepowerscrubber.com. So call 1-800-953-8622 now.
How come sometimes they'll just have Olympic gymnasts on Dancing with the Stars? Seems to me they might be entering the contest with a bit of a head start. Oh, the skills don't always translate. Okay, but who do you think has a better chance? A world-class athlete or Steve Wozniak when they're both trying to dance? It's not fair.
I have been, this has been my crusade for years. The Dancing with the Stars, who I'm sure, I don't know, TPT at TPUSA.com. Has anybody watched Dancing with the Stars? I remember when Dancing with the Stars like first hit the scene, and they literally, they had like tech entrepreneurs and gymnasts, like Olympic people who dance for a living, competing against each other. That was great. I like this new trend of internet arguments made in song form. Maybe I'll do that. I probably won't, but that'd be kind of fun. So yeah, I've never quite understood that. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. All right, well, this is a fun time. Let me scroll down to what we got going on here. The time to get to the point. It is look around the news, getting to the point.
Get to the point. Get to the point.
This one is concerning. I would love to hear your emails. Read your emails. I won't hear your emails. But this is from Business Insider. This launches into a very, very, what could be very long philosophical discussion about what does death mean, which is way heavier than things we generally talk about on this show. But TBT at TPUSA.com, we'll just read the headline and get you through a very quick briefing of it. Business Insider says this: death isn't the end. Meta patented an AI that lets you keep posting from beyond the grave. Meta was granted a U.S. patent in late December 2025, originally filed in 2023, for large-scale language learning models, LLMs, a system to simulate a user's social media activity, such as posting, liking, commenting, or responding to messages when the user is absent for extended period of times, including long breaks or death. Holy crap. Okay. I mean, that's pretty much it. That's the gist of it. The patently explicitly addresses scenarios in which the user is deceased and basically says, we will keep posting on your platforms as you or as a AI modeled you when you die. I recognize that this can turn into a 3-hour philosophical conversation. I think I'll just say this. And again, of the things we talk about on the show today, this is the one I'd like to hear the most about. tpt@tpusa.com. The brevity of life is the only thing that gives it meaning. In other words, again, without getting too philosophical here, the fact that you're going to die is the only thing that allows you to live. Because if everybody lived forever and there was no concern of death, there would be nothing to strive for because you could do all the things and therefore nothing is meaningful. The fact that you only have a limited amount of time on Earth means that you have to prioritize the things that matter to you, and therefore the things that matter tend to matter more than, all of the other frivolous things that you just inevitably won't get to in life. I mean, that is the curse of so many, old modern literature and older literature alike is like living for a long time. Like, I don't know why this is the first thing that pops in my head. I'm sorry that this is just the way my brain thinks. I think I saw somebody at the gym this morning in a Twilight t-shirt. But remember, the vampire's curse is that they live forever. And so is this idea that meta is going to keep you effectively alive to your friends and family in that vein of like the curse of perpetual existence? I don't know. Like I said, this would be a fascinating, like very long conversation about the ethics of a social media platform posting for you after you die. But I don't know. Not the time or place for right now, but I'd love to solicit your emails. tpt@tpusa.com. Is this something that you're like, oh, cool? Or are you like me, just freaked out by it? tpt@tpusa.com. There is a right answer, by the way. All right. Getting to the point of some other points. Do you remember Jacinda Ardern? Ardern. She is the weirdo from New Zealand. She was the prime minister during COVID, and she was like, yes, the blue cities in this country were extremely locked down. And you can just drive to a red area. I live in a very red area of California. You may not think that those exist, but they do. We were done with masks before some red states. Just I'm talking about the geographical location. And what I mean to say is that, yes, the federal government under President Fauci and Joe Biden and a bunch of those crazy wackadoos set some pretty weird stipulations re-COVID. But for the most part, geographically, you could get away from that. You could drive to a red area and you're not wearing masks. You're not getting mandated for. Okay, fine. Not so in New Zealand. This lady was as dictatorial as dictators get. This is the country that was putting people in literal prisons for not getting the jab or being sick. Like, they would enclose entire areas and say you can't leave because of like a cough. Anyways, that's who this lady is. The headline here from CNN says the former leader of New Zealand, Ardern, has left New Zealand, and she's not the only one. They are talking about in this article that New Zealand is experiencing a significant exodus of citizens, particularly those in midlife, because the country has been run so poorly and so tragically changed what is a beautiful, beautiful place. I've only been to New Zealand one time, and to say that I've been to New Zealand is a great exaggeration. I was there for a layover, but even from the airport, holy cow, that place is beautiful. But because of the terrible policies of the leaders in charge of New Zealand, a bunch of people are fleeing the country and moving to places like Australia, including the former freaking prime minister, who's become a high-profile example of the trend of relocating. She moved to Sydney, Australia, highlighting how the growing wave of midlifers and retirees are leaving the country. 60% of leavers what does this say? Let me. While young adults traditionally undertake the overseas experience, midlife emigrants are now the fastest paced growing leaving Australia, where there's 60% of them are these middle-aged people, which is wild. I don't know. I just thought that was fascinating that the folks, even in other countries that have run the country into the ground, are now leaving the country. My guess is that when Governor Newsom does not win the presidential race, probably doesn't even get the nomination. Man, that's another big discussion, whether or not when Governor Newsom doesn't even get the presidential nom and stops being the governor of California, he'll probably move to Texas. Because he's like, this place sucks. I got to get out of here. Such often is the case. All right. We got some wacky ones today. It's towards the end of the week. So there's that. This is from Fox News. This is the article that I was teasing at the beginning of the show. New book claims Shakespeare was actually a black Jewish woman poet named Amelia Bassano. Now, there's a lot going on here. Not to get too like Western literature-y, but this is from the article. In her upcoming book, The Real Shakespeare, Amelia Bassano Willibury, author Irene Coslet claims William Shakespeare was not the man from Stratford-upon-Avon, but actually a dark-skinned Jewish woman poet, possibly from North African descent, who lived during the Elizabethan era. Now, as ridiculous and crazy as this sounds, let me try to attempt to explain what I think is actually going on here. In the time of William Shakespeare, who, by the way, was one of the best... I know people get, like, William Shakespeare drones on. I don't understand the language of it. If you really sit down and read it, like, Hamlet is one of the best philosophical works of any playwright, or really any philosopher in, not the modern age, but, you know, the 1600s. Julius Caesar was one of the best political plays to kind of portray the impact of rhetoric on political races and political power. Shakespeare is incredible. Now, without all of that said, at the time that Shakespeare was writing, this is all an attempt to explain what's going on here in this headline, which is ridiculous and crazy. At the time, it was not uncommon for playwrights who were trying to make a cultural, philosophical take on what's going on in their modern culture, would take stories and not necessarily even rewrite them, but add certain things that provide cultural context to the story. It has often been pointed out that Romeo and Juliet, for example, is not an original Shakespeare story. And he never claimed that it was. Nobody ever said, okay, well, this is he made up the story. No, this is a story that had been passed around and retold throughout generations. That's what I think this article is getting at. That's what I think this book is probably getting at, not having read it, and I won't read it. I think what's probably happening is this lady is saying, well, look, this is the person that originally wrote Romeo and Juliet. Yeah, okay, it's age-old story. A lot of different takes on it. Shakespeare added a bunch of violence to it, which is actually pretty interesting and says something in and of itself. And we won't get into the book report that could be on Shakespeare right now on Romeo and Juliet. But what I think is happening here is somebody found like what they believe is like the original telling of Romeo and Juliet, and it happened to be a North African Jewish woman, and they're trying to pass that off as this is the real Shakespeare. No, it's not, and I think your title is specifically to try and get headlines, which I guess it worked because we're talking about it here. Anyways, that was one of the most bizarre headlines I think I've come across in a very long time. And wrapping up, get to the point. Another bizarre one. This is from TMZ, I think. The Pepsi commercial disaster. Michael Jackson's Pepsi commercial disaster not caused by hair product. And there's that. Okay, if just very, very briefly, this means nothing to nobody. But the fact that there's a headline recently is quite fascinating. The 1984 Pepsi commercial. Remember when Michael Jackson's hair caught on fire? That apparently has been definitively found that no, it was not the hair product. Okay. get into the bottom of some very important deep dive investigation. Thank you, TMZ. Thank you, Michael Jackson. It is actually interesting, though, that allegedly is the pain that started his then lifelong kind of crippling addiction to painkillers, which is, just kind of interesting of itself. But it wasn't the hair product. So there's that. All right, wow, this was an interesting get to the point. Fun stuff coming up next in the official business, which, if you forget, official business is official capacity, either elected officials or bureaucrats saying things officially. That coming up after the break. tbt@tpusa.com is the email address. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Half protection is not enough. Using just an antivirus online is also not enough. Get better online protection with NordVPN. It will encrypt your online traffic, protect you from malware, phishing, and stop annoying ads. Get NordVPN now.
People are being given 20 days to move their savings out of bank accounts just because of their political views. In fact, a conservative billionaire in Washington, who you know very well, was forced to transfer hundreds of millions of dollars. Hi, I'm Dr. Ron Paul. If they can debank billionaires for their politics, what's stopping them from doing the same to you? This is why I've always advocated for the one asset that can't be debanked: gold. Click below for a free info kit on gold IRAs from my trusted friends at Birch Gold Group. For thousands of years, while paper currencies and banking systems failed, gold has preserved wealth. Even billionaires are learning this lesson the hard way. Don't wait for your own 20-day notice. Click below for your free info kit on gold IRAs.
License insurance on you?
Yeah.
I didn't see a front plate attached to the front of your car.
Stop sign?
No, I said front plate.
What stop sign?
I'm not saying stop sign.
Oh.
You don't have a license plate on the front of your car.
Wait, which stop sign?
Are you f***ing with me?
Okay, you either recognize that reference or you don't, but that is peak internet comedy right there. Stop sign. Now, because I realized that probably most of you don't know what the reference is, I want to play you the quick reference. So this guy is saying, stop sign, what stop sign? The police officer's like, what the heck are you talking about? The kid in this video, you know, advisedly or not, is referencing another online video and reenacting that in real life with a cop. This is the original video. Watch this.
Tell me why you stopping me?
Yeah, I'm about to.
Huh?
I'm about to.
What?
I'm about to tell you.
Stop sign?
No, I said I'm.
What stop sign, man?
I said I'm about to tell you.
Huh? You say stop sign?
No one said stop sign but you.
Why you stopping me?
You made an improper right hand turn. When you turn to a new road, you got to turn that closest lane. So.
Let me get my ID out for you, partner.
I appreciate you.
I think that guy ended up being arrested for a DUI. The officer also said, hey, would you mind handing me the beer in the console right there? That's the reference. I wouldn't recommend, by the way, referencing online internet meme videos when you're actually being pulled over. I wouldn't recommend that, but that's what makes that first video very funny. Now, having realized I may have lost everybody in the contextualized internet videos, which I do think are funny, and hopefully you do too, it is time now to get to my favorite part of the show, which is official business. All right, official business today starts off with none other than the greasy-haired formerly cheating on his wife with his best friend's wife. Governor Newsom, the state of California, the nation's poopiest state, and I only bring that up because effectively what he is doing is he is shaming the potentially nominee for the libs for president of the United States. Here's the governor of California, like I said, slut-shaming Kamala Harris. How dare he? Also, this is
and for those that don't know Willie Brown, you wouldn't know Kamala Harris. without Willie Brown. Kamala and I both got elected the same.
Boom. Again, if you're not familiar with this, Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, who cheated on his wife with his best friend's wife, is now slut-shaming Kamala Harris by saying if you don't know who Willie Brown is, you wouldn't know who Kamala Harris is without Willie Brown, because Kamala Harris rose through the ranks of political power in the poopiest state in the nation by getting with the most powerful person in the state at the time, who was a state rep in Willie Brown. Kamala Harris slept her way to Attorney General of San Francisco, and then Attorney General of California, and then Senator California, then Vice President, and then the presidential nominee by, in order to go up, you got to go down. I didn't say that. Who said that? Wow, that's dismissive. But again, it's being pointed out by the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, who rose through the ranks the right way by having a rich dad. I think I read that in the Free Beacon, but that's so shout out to whoever thought of that joke. But that all too funny. You know, you hate to see libs tearing each other down, unless of course you do like to see libs tearing each other down. In additional official business, this is actually posted. I believe this is from one of the White House channels. Here's the president of the United States, who wasn't the president of the United States at the time. This is President Donald Trump in 2015, June of 2015. Holy cow, campaign start early. Saying something that he's apparently following up on in the modern age that a bunch of libs and even some conservatives are not super happy with. Anyways, here's President Trump in 2015, cut 10.
I will stop Iran from getting nuclear weapons, and we won't be using a man like Secretary Kerry that has absolutely no concept of negotiation, who's making a horrible and laughable deal, who's just being tapped along as they make weapons right now.
So, campaign promise fulfilled. I recognize he said no more forever wars, and whether or not this is a forever war remains to be seen. If this thing wraps up here in the next couple days, next couple weeks, I would consider that also a campaign promise fulfilled. So there's that. Let's, running out of time here, so I want to make sure we get to. Let's go with another President Trump. Let's go with cut 14. This is President Trump saying something that is just objectively true the other day and needs to be said, and that's that. Cut 14.
No, I don't want to brag, but they've said this about a lot of things. No other president could do some of the I'm doing. No other president. The things I'm doing, nobody else was going to do them. They say it all the time, sir, could you do this? You're the only one can do it.
That is so fantastically true. And again, probably can be a bigger, longer discussion, but nobody else as the president of the United States would have done or could have done what President Trump is currently doing. That's just objectively true. Nobody has had the guts, both conservatives and liberals alike. I mean, obviously liberals, because they're got their own way of looking at the world through, rainbow-colored sunglasses that aren't reflective of real life. But I mean, again, even conservatives, nobody else would have been able to pull it off with President Trump's understanding of the media, and what he's done for this country couldn't have been done by anybody else. All right, that's going to do it for official business. Coming up, what's today? Thursday. Ooh. Justice Thursday coming at you. The Thursday Tribunal coming up next. Don't go away.
Then we see that he is doubling down. He is not.
Clap your hands if you're happy and you know it. Ride your bike.
If you're happy and you know it, then your face will surely show it.
If you're happy and you know it, smile big and bright.
Thousands of kids just like me are happy every day.
And it's all because of generous people like you who support Shriners Hospitals for Children every month.
All you have to do is call the number on your screen or go online to loveshriners.org right now with your monthly gift.
Because of people like you, Shriners Hospitals for Children is able to make an everyday miracle happen for kids like me.
If you're happy and you know it, dance around. If you're happy and you know it, play a song.
If you're happy and you know it, and your face will surely show show it.
If you're happy and you know it, take your shot.
And when you call or go online right now to donate $19 a month or more, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you and a reminder of all the smiles you're bringing to kids' faces every day.
Will today be the day you send your love to the rescue?
When you call the number on your screen right now and give as little as $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you'll be making a life-changing difference for a child, just like Sarah.
Your monthly gift today could change your life forever. Because of you.
We are happy and we know it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Please call or go online right now to give. If operators are busy, please wait patiently or go to loveshriners.org right away.
This is Fubo. It's a better way to watch ESPN and other top sports networks. Plus, get coverage of your local teams all year long. Start watching at FuboTV.com.
The bathroom of your dreams is only a phone call away with BCI Bath and Shower. We can make your ordinary bath and shower extraordinary. This is not a cookie cutter design. This is a complete custom build that will fit your every need, and discounts for seniors and military.
Oh, you don't hate capitalism. What you hate is not being on top of it. That's not a personality trait. It's a low-ranked perspective wrapped in moral outrage disguised as identity. I would hate it too. Like the iPhone you're watching this on. Oh, but you didn't have a choice. You did. You chose trend, inclusion, status, quality. We know. For the American European lovers of socialism, they choose the highest resource environment on Earth, contribute the least marginal value, and moralize the outcome. What do you want? Space? Culture? Time, natural resources, abundance, kindness. We got plenty, honey, but not where you live. You live in the place with the most scalable algorithm. Your outrage is the predictable byproduct of the very system you misunderstand, and your supposed moral superiority is actually just exposure to leverage you cannot execute. Can I give you some advice? Get a job.
No further comment. That was fantastic. Yeah, the iPhone that you're tweeting so angrily about, capitalism sucks, not have been in your hands without capital. That was great. I really appreciated that. All right, hey, it is time. It's Thursday, which means it's time for the Thursday Tribunal, or it is Justice Thursday.
Thursday Tribunal. Justice Thursday.
That intro really makes me feel powerful. And I hate to say, I kind of like it. Like I said, I will happily be king if somebody makes the decision, but where was I? Wow, I got wrapped up in the potential power, which actually leads us to our Thursday Tribunal, which is, of course, me indicting, prosecuting, ruling on, and then sentencing a particular individual or group of people based on the crimes that I see fit. Of all the people to put into a Thursday Tribunal, Justice Thursday, I picked maybe a scandalous one. Maybe this is scandalous. Maybe it's not. Is it fair to judge and then pass down judgment upon a group of monks who are walking for peace? If you haven't heard about this story, late in 2025, a group of monks started walking in Texas to D.C. for peace. Because if you didn't know, this is how you solve problems. You walk a lot. Go ahead and play the cut. This is, let's see, what is this? Cut 13, I believe. Here are the monks walking. They've passed D.C. and now they're in North Carolina.
The Buddhist monks, I've been watching them on social media. They represent so much for us, to show us what it really means to struggle and to show others how to create that peace, even in hard times.
Now, you may be wondering, Jobob, why are you going to indict and prosecute monks who are just walking for peace? Because they're complicit in idiocy. Freaking hippies out on the street corner thinking this is actually making a difference. Now, do I want the monks to not walk for peace? I don't particularly care. The problem is with the people lining the streets thinking that this is making some sort of tangible difference. That is my complaint with the walking monks. So I am personally, on this Justice Thursday, indicting them for being complicit in the stupefaction of the United States of America by way of convincing idiots that this is somehow making some sort of difference. Interestingly enough, the jury, which is comprised of me, has gotten back to us, and the verdict is in. Guilty on all counts. The walking monks who are walking for peace for some reason in Forrest Gump-esque fashion are guilty. And this, jeez, wow. The sentence that came into my head is not, it's not appropriate for TV. If I was amongst friends in a room where none of it was being recorded, I would possibly issue a sentence that may or may not correspond with some of the other types of protests that monks have participated in the past. Some for totally good measure, but that sort of that would fall under cruel and unusual punishment, which I believe is the Eighth Amendment. So I won't. I will issue a sentence upon these monks of not exile, having to continue their walk through the streets of San Francisco. That is the punishment. That is the sentence that I will issue upon these monks. Yeah, sure, you're complicit in the idiocy of the United States of American people who are lining the streets thinking that this is, look at this, they're walking for peace. All right, cool. Well, what do the other 3-year-olds say? Let the adults talk. Go sit at the kids' table. But for being complicit in that crime, I sentenced them to having to walk through San Francisco to avoid the human feces and needles on the streets. Also Los Angeles and New York City. You got to walk through all those places. They're peaceful monks. See how much peace you bring to those areas. Wow. TPT@TPUSA.com is the email address. We're going to do something fun here on this Thursday. Well, we'll save it for the next one. TPT@TPUSA.com. We'll be right back after the break. Don't go away.
Running on empty, brain fog, can't focus, and those sugar-loaded energy drinks? Sure, they spike you fast, then crash you hard. Fix it with Soldier Fuel, the official energy drink of real America's voice. Soldier Fuel was born in the military to solve a real problem. Troops were relying on sugary drinks that wreck performance, so they built a better option. Zero sugar and steady energy, powered by caffeine, taurine, inositol, and extra B vitamins for clean energy and focus. No roller coaster crash. This isn't gas station hype. Soldier Fuel was built alongside the U.S. military and proven where it counts. Used by American soldiers and elite special operations.
This is really good.
And when you fuel up, you give back. 15% of profits go to pro-military charities. Scan the QR code, search for Soldier Fuel on Amazon, or go to buysoldierfuel.com and get an automatic 15% off your entire order. Real America's Voice is growing, and now it's all in one place. Introducing the new and improved RAV app, built for access, community, and choice, not paywalls. Here's the key. RAV is still free to watch. No sign-in, no membership required. Your favorite live streams, breaking coverage, and video on demand are all right there. Free, just like always.
For the War Room Posse, we have to be a force multiplier on this. We have to stick the landing.
In the White House, in the Oval Office, you're crushing it, my friend.
And if you want more, the members section is your backstage pass. Get exclusive behind-the-scenes photos and videos, insider moments from the studio and the field, and early access to new content before it goes public. Members can also unlock special experiences like virtual meet and greets, member-only auctions, and select event access, plus commercial-free viewing of certain shows inside the app. It's not just an app, it's a community. Download the RAV app today. Find it in the App Store and Google Play.
My name is Phoebe, and I live in Florida. I love Real America's Voice. They truly speak for the people, and that's what real patriotism is all about.
Hi, this is Kelly Renee from Northern California Hills, MAGA Country. The reason I watch Real America's Voice is for the faith, the family, and the freedom. Giddy up!
It's Stacy from Texas. I watch Real America's Voice because I need to learn, and I know I can get the truth through Rav. God bless everyone, and always love the children. Amen.